All right, Chapter 8. Shipping and receiving procedure. Purpose and scope of the chapter provides with the general content of the preparation, shipping, and ensure the proper protective packaging, marketing, and labeling are used in proper protecting the equipment and the material with the military, commercial, transportation pipelines. It provides the receiving of the procedure step when the material arrives at the damaged condition is lost. B. The shipping guidelines. The following paragraphs outlines the important consideration criteria for the shipping preparation as well as the training resources. Shipment and protection. The shipping floor should always communicate with the local transportation office, the transportation agent regarding the transportation requirements, opportunities, cost effects. Seize the section of the most appropriate method of protection for cargo against the transportation hazards are extremely important. Vital the consideration include hazardous material only trained and certified personnel, including in accordance with the applicable regulation, must process the shipment of the special requirements, restriction, hazardous material shipments relative to package quantity, limitation, marketing label, shipping papers, and other special provisions. See Chapter 4 for additional information. Item characteristics, the kind of degree, packaging, including the damage, blocking, bracing, will depend on the vulnerability damage to the hearts of the from hazards in transportational pipelines. Special packaging, wrapping of material necessary to protect static electricity, moisture, dust, and abrasion for the machine parts of the precision critical surface of the environmental hazard. Mode of shipment, the considering additional vulnerability, shipment moving the ocean, intermodule flatbed, which may subject the material excessive handling, environmental hazard. D. The special handling requirements considering availability, material handling, shipping, the receiving, and the points of the may be limited to the use of excessively heavy, oversized, consolidated containers. However, the consolidated material for the shipment can often be protected. Items helps to facilitate material handling for shipping. The receiving, the use of overpacking often provides small items with increased visibility protection. Using the common view of the freight transportation provided services that offer the required security services. Any other required or authorized increased valuation not otherwise valued as a small purchasable transportation services provider. Economy, the consolidated material transportation charges may be significantly reduced. The utilization consolidation items whenever feasible, depending upon the other relevant shipping requirements restriction. 5. The container economy. The use of the coefficient containing the adequately protected items must be considered with using excessive, expansive, and unnecessary large containers. If waste supply the funds drivers to transportation costs. G. Special security requirements of transportation service provider. The use of seals, intermodule container of the truckload, exclusive services, the tarp, the blocking, bracing, die downs, other freight protection, ensuring the public highway safety, shipping, the personal local transportation office, and transportation agent must make knowledge of all truck loading safety practices, ensure full preparation with the military commercial transportation service provider relative to the industrial state and the highway requirements. 2. Marking and labeling. The use of clear, addressed packaging, handling, limited properly identification, shipping containers is very important. The maximum shipment, the control of the transit, necessary training, the recovery action, military standard 129, military shipping, the storage of Appendix B, the storage resources. All hazardous material shipment requires special marking and label requirements. See applicable regulations for the requirement. When reusing a container, all previous marking and label should be obligated to remove to prevent the delivery from the wrong consignee with having the shipment frustrated with the import-export point. Shipping floor operation, ensuring efficient, safe floor procedure, fabricating the container with using particular handling equipment, banning, shrinking, wrapping, equipment staging of freight, loading, shipment to the other trucks, convenience, other responsibility, local shipping activity command, any necessary training, relative shipping operation responsible for the AOR, compliance with the local, state, and federal OSHA regulations must be met. Shipping checklist. The use of Exhibit A1 checking list is ensure the shipping checklists are met. The Defensive Transportation Regulation Part 2, Transportation Resources, School, Military Package Technology, Aberdeen, Proving Ground, Maryland, officers, shipment preparation training, including the course of the marking and labeling, as well as packaging and preservation methods. C. Receiving procedure, checking shipment upon delivery. Receiving personnel will examine the counting of all containers received in the shipment. Each item will be checked and is being unloaded prior to departure of the transportation service provider. Will possibly record an overage or shortage damage. When a container shows evidence of damage or pilferage, call the transportation service provider attention to segregate the damaged items from the other items being unloaded to ensure the proper record is made. Keep the record account of the condition of the material shipment is received. The record will show the identification of the transportation service provider, equipment number, time, date, seal number, and the conditions of seal, check of the name co-signers, copy of the bill and landing tally sheet, and other approved forms of the purposes. When discrepancies exist, when reporting the transportation discrepancy, file the transportation discrepancy report (DDR) procedures in Chapter 9. Discrepancies will be reported immediately to FinCEN's claim section, and the claim section will initiate the resolve of the claim action to the transportation service provider. A note: the original all copy the transportation service provider delivery receipt with the specification identification over shortage for damage items, their times or delivery uses, clear, specific, accurate exemption and notion, and date, and all copy the delivery receipt. Ensure the transportation service provider representative signs all the copies of the delivery receipt. 8. See the name of the qualifying statement of the delivery receipt subject to count, subject to inspection. These statements are usually useless if or self-serving. Take photographs before unloading when practicable, before, during, and after unloading and unpacking. The apparent damage and conditions exist result in concealed damage. D. Clear delivery receipt. When the transportation provider holds a clear delivery receipt, goods and later found in having been short or damaged, the receipt may not be construed as the final sense of terms. The receipt varied by facts actually developed. Actual facts may be explained through the use of signed statements. Affidavits may be made by personnel who executed clear receipts and then discovered the short of damage. This way may be possible to prove discrepancy did in fact exist at the time of delivery. Claims in the transit loss damage extremely difficult to use. The transportation service provider has been given the clearly developed receipt. The transportation receiving the personnel must avoid releasing the signed delivery receipts before thoroughly examining properly delivered. Concealed damage. When there is no visible damage in the container delivery given up, the clearly delivery receipt of the transportation service provider does not always rely on liability claims of the transportation service provider. Concealed damage constitutes the biggest problem of the Coast Guard freight claims, and they also must be among the hardest to prove. The concealed damage claims the most undeniable transportation service provider responsible for the damage, especially if a significant amount of the time has been elapsed. Delivery discovered for the damage. Transportation service provider will refuse to accept the liability for the concealed damage reported in apparent clear delivery. The transportation service provider can claim cosigner personal damage to the property after the delivery. The cosigner only often moves the property to the unloading dock after another before the concealed damage is discovered. A considerable weight can be attached to the disposition. The burden of proof is upon the owner of the property to overcome the evidence of the clear delivery receipt, but this can only be done by the development of complete factual data establishing how and when and whose possession the property was in when the damage occurred. This is the statements of affidavit of transportation material, shipping and checking, the personal giving the details about the time and the circumstance of delivery, acceptance, origin, and concealed damage, delivery, destination required to support a claim of the transportation service provider liability. F. The acceptance or rejection of goods. Goods must be rejected by the transportation service provider merely because the receiver believes the damage to the property. The property may be directed to the transport service provider only if the damage is the extent is intended no salvageable value or not economically repairable. The cost of repairs exceed the raised value of the repaired item. G. The unidentified freight and wrong consignee. Transportation service provider attempts to deliver the shipment containing the packages clearly marked for another consignor which cannot be identified with the government property. Misdirected and astray, the package will not be accepted. This does not constitute refusal of shipment. H. Actions to taken after delivery. If the damage exists, contact nearest office of delivering transportation service provider immediately. Request an inspection of the shipment and allow the transportation service provider up to 7 days of the calendar to inspect the shipment. The transportation service provider verbally waives the inspection and makes a record of the waive. Include the name of the transportation service provider, representative, phone number, date, title, name. Title notes, discussion, agreements, disagreements, confirm the waiver of the written with the transportation service provider by letter and email if it's a mile. If the transportation service provider waives inspection, the conduct of the government inspection, technically qualified personnel will help the complex specialized equipment involved with the essential documented amount, extent of the damage. Do not interject options, superstitions on how the damage happened because the transportation survivors provider would inspect it and will have to abide with the government inspection made if necessary to take additional pictures of the damage. Avoid opening damaged packages until the transportation service provider representative arrives to perform inspection unless the possibility of the damage of shipment will reduce the improper unpacking. Unpacking only if absolutely necessary. Hold all containers, packaging material inspection by the transportation service provider. Protect the goods from other further damage and loss due to the weather vandalism, and it is the consigning duty to make the effort to mitigate, minimize, evaluate the loss of damage at the lowest level. Never to discuss liability with the transportation service provider representative. Obtain copy of the transportation service provider representative damage inspection report and include the transportation TDR package. If the transportation service provider assumes the responsibility contained with the certified statement with effect, see Chapter 9 for the transportation TDR procedures. Report shipment descriptions involved with the damage is Standard Form 361 in accordance with the TDR procedure in Chapter 9. Overage. When a military receives an excessive quantity shown on the bill of lading and noting that the transportation service provider delivery receipt reports all overage reconciliation according to Chapter 9. Joint storage and classification sensitive material. Report any shortages, classified material violations, security immediately designated the command security officer. According with the applicable Department of Defense component procedure using the fastest means report will be made with the following items: secure materials, confidential materials, narcotics, weapons, ammunition, similar to ordinances, hazardous materials, promptly notify the military service deployment distribution command and the appropriate combat command is short the result can indicate the condition of its received. When short notation has been made with delivery receipt with the property check short, the later received consignee will notify the claims section, the U.S. Coast Guard Financing Center, Chesapeake, Virginia. Under no circumstances top secret, confidential, or protected material be released to the transportation service provider for repair or salvage. Here's the shipping checklist and resolve checking list. Continued. Chapter 9, Transportation Discrepancy Report.